Mariah Harris, a bright and ambitious high school senior, was standing outside the principal's office, her heart racing. The door in front of her seemed to pulse with a menacing energy, her fate sealed by a simple but devastating decision. She had been suspended, but it wasn't for breaking school rules or acting out. It was for something far more personal, something that ran deeper than the dress code she had apparently violated. It was because of her natural hair. For years, Mariah had been proud of her curls. They were a symbol of her identity, a part of her heritage that she embraced with confidence. But her decision to wear her natural hair to prom had sparked an unimaginable backlash. The principal, Mr. Parker, had made it clear that her hairstyle didn't fit the professional image of the school. His words echoed in her mind. "We have standards here, Mariah. You can't just wear your hair however you want." The injustice burned within her as she stood in the cold hallway, trying to calm herself. It was a battle she never anticipated fighting, and yet she felt the weight of something darker beginning to stir, something ancient, something tied to the very foundation of the school. Little did she know, this seemingly ordinary act of rebellion had just set something terrible in motion. As she turned to walk away, the whispering began. At first, it was just a faint sound like a breeze through the trees. But it wasn't the wind. The whispers felt alive. Mariah paused, confused, and looked around. The hallways were empty, the silence overwhelming. But deep down, she knew something wasn't right. This was only the beginning. The whispers grew louder in the days that followed. It wasn't just in the hallways anymore. Maria felt them wherever she went, in the cafeteria, in the quiet corners of her classes, and even when she lay in bed at night. A strange, foreboding presence seemed to be watching her, waiting for something. The more Mariah tried to ignore it, the more intense it became. Her hair, once a symbol of her pride, now seemed to carry an aura of power. It felt as if the very strands themselves were connected to something greater. The more she thought about it, the more she began to understand. This wasn't just about hair. This was something older, darker, and far more dangerous. Her suspicions grew when she began to notice something odd happening at school. The teachers, once friendly and approachable, seemed to be growing colder, more distant. The students around her were beginning to change, too. There was a growing unease in the air, an energy that hung over the school like a dark cloud. Then, one day after school, Mariah found herself drawn to the old part of the school building, the part that no one ever used. The floor creaked beneath her feet as she made her way down the dimly lit hall, the whispers growing louder the closer she got to the old library. There, hidden behind a stack of forgotten books, she discovered something she wasn't meant to see, a journal. The journal belonged to a long-forgotten student, someone who had attended the school decades ago. The pages were old, yellowed with age, but the writing was still legible. It spoke of rituals, dark, blood-soaked rituals that involved the natural hair of certain individuals. Mariah's heart raced as she read further. It was clear that the curse tied to the school had been dormant for years, but her actions had awakened it. The journal spoke of a powerful entity that thrived on anger, defiance, and the shedding of tradition. The more she read, the more terrified she became. Mariah wasn't just a victim of racism or cruelty. She was at the center of something far more sinister. She had unleashed something that had been hidden for generations. Mariah's sense of fear grew with each passing hour. The whispers weren't just whispers anymore. They had taken on a voice that seemed to speak directly to her, beckoning her into the darkness. She tried to ignore it, but the more she resisted, the more powerful the voices became. It was as if they were invading her thoughts, pressing her to confront the horrors of the past. She realized that the journal she had discovered was not just a relic, it was a warning. The entity, once unleashed, needed a vessel, a person who could act as the bridge between the physical world and the shadowy realm it inhabited. And now Mariah was that vessel. She returned to the school late one night, unable to shake the feeling that the whispers were guiding her. They led her to a hidden basement beneath the school, a place that was never mentioned, not even in the deepest of rumors. The air was thick with dust, and the smell of rot filled the air as Mariah descended the old staircase. The walls seemed to close in on her, and the further she went, the stronger the feeling that she was not alone became. At the bottom of the stairs, she found an old, ornate door covered in strange symbols. It was locked, but the whispers told her that she could open it, that it was her destiny. Trembling, she reached out and felt a rush of energy flow through her body as she touched the door. The chains holding it in place shattered as if they were nothing. The door creaked open, revealing a chamber filled with ancient runes and a long-forgotten altar. Suddenly, the air around her grew colder, and a presence filled the room, dark, powerful, and malevolent. The creature that had been awakened by her actions now stood in front of her, its form shifting and twisting like smoke. It spoke in a language Mariah couldn't understand, but she felt its intent. It was ancient, hungry, and it had been waiting for someone like her. She had no choice but to face the darkness she had released. The whispers grew into an uncontrollable roar, and Mariah felt herself losing control. Her natural hair, once a symbol of pride, was now a tether to the entity, binding her to it. Mariah stood in the heart of the cursed basement, the weight of the situation pressing down on her. The entity, a monstrous figure made of darkness, towered above her. Its eyes glowed with an eerie light, and the air crackled with malevolent energy. The whispers had become deafening, filling her mind with horrifying thoughts. This was no longer just about standing up for herself or her hair. It was about survival. The creature let out a low growl, its form shifting and expanding. It was no longer confined to the pit beneath the school. It had taken shape, and it was coming for her. Mariah could feel it, the pull of the darkness drawing her closer, urging her to surrender. But as the creature moved closer, Mariah found herself drawn to the ancient symbols etched into the floor. They glowed faintly, like a beacon, a sign of hope. She knew now that the symbols weren't just part of the curse. They were the key to controlling it. The whispers were trying to stop her, but Mariah was determined. She wasn't going to let this creature consume her, not after everything she had fought for. With trembling hands, she placed her palms on the symbols. The power surged through her like electricity, filling her with strength and knowledge that had been hidden for generations. The curse didn't control her. She could control it. As the creature lunged at her, Mariah raised her hands, and the symbols flared to life. A burst of light erupted from her, pushing the darkness back. The creature howled in rage, but it couldn't touch her. The more she concentrated, the more the light grew, until the creature was forced back toward the pit. But it wasn't defeated yet. It was still alive, still watching, waiting for its next chance. The final confrontation took place in the heart of the school, where the dark entity had fully manifested. Mariah could feel the curse pressing in on her from every direction, the walls closing in as the creature advanced toward her. Its eyes burned with hunger, and she knew that if she didn't act now, it would consume everything. But this time Mariah was ready. She had learned the true power of her heritage, the strength of her bloodline. She wasn't just a victim of the curse. She was the one who could break it. The room vibrated with energy as Mariah focused on the symbols, channeling the power that was now a part of her. The creature lashed out, sending waves of darkness toward her, but Mariah stood firm. The symbols around her flickered with light, pushing back the darkness with each passing moment. The battle raged on, but as the creature finally recoiled, its form dissipating into smoke, Mariah knew the curse was broken. The darkness was gone. The school was saved. But the victory came at a great cost. Mariah was forever changed, her connection to the curse unbreakable. The school would never be the same. And though the creature was gone for now, Mariah couldn't shake the feeling that the darkness would one day return.